it took me years to fall in love with sales engineering. I did eventually, but it's a dirty little secret of sales engineering that some jobs are easier than others. I've had jobs where I've been doing presentations and POCs and evals all day long, but I've also had some where, hey, I only had 3 or 4 meetings a week and I had a lot of free time. And I enjoyed that in my 20s. I don't think I would like it now, but that's, back then it was great.
Fair. It's kind of cool actually hearing it from you, something like that, because you're somebody that's, I don't know, pretty well established in their career. You've done quite a bit as an SC, but to
Mhm.
know that, you came from relatively humble beginnings of not knowing, or really, I don't want to say not caring so much about where it would take you, but at least not knowing where it could potentially take you. And then you put in the work, I suppose, to get yourself to be better and to eventually love it. It's good to see. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in that same boat in that early stage of maybe not feeling the most comfortable in there, not knowing if they love it or not, and it eventually growing to something better.
So
Yeah.
Russ, what changed that made you fall in love with the role? Was it the company you're working for, that, or the technology? What made you fall in love with it?
Working for better companies helped. Like working for companies like where I really believed in what they were doing, I think was really helpful. So I've been with MobileIron for 8.5 years now. I joined in 2012, where it was really like we were in the eye of a hurricane of like mobile. I come from BlackBerry, which was good, but I knew at BlackBerry things were changing. Technology wasn't as hot anymore. And really at MobileIron, like I just loved what we were doing. I thought it was important. I loved our technology. I loved giving our roadmaps even because they were exciting, like things that we were going to do. And I think that's one of the things that really motivated me. Winning is another great, motivator, right? Like not only do you make money, that's actually the less important part for me, but it's just the endorphins that you generate from winning and the goodwill it generates within the whole company. That's like a really wonderful experience that you just want to like continue to capture. And then about the same time when I started working for MobileIron, I decided, I was more interested in leadership too. I had a lot to say, and I started to find ways, to say them at MobileIron, and I wanted to have a seat at the table, the leadership table, and so I started, acting in a way I think that would, eventually help get me there. That was a process, but that's really when things change. It's this job that changed me the most.
So, like, if I'm looking at your career, right, you spent
Yep.
almost 10 years in a job that you were good at, but you weren't really being pushed to get better at. And then all of a sudden it hit you and you took off. Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, I would definitely say I'm a late bloomer. Yeah, well, I moved around a lot, right, in the 2000s. Like I had a lot of 2-year stints, even some 1-year stints at companies, startups, and I lived through a crash of the telecom sector, right?
Yep.
When I worked at Copper Mountain, we were selling to CLECs. Do you even know what a CLEC is?
Nope.
It's a competitive local exchange carrier that was supposed to compete with Verizon or Bell or any of the incumbents. And there were lots of these companies, and their stocks were riding high, and then all of a sudden one day they were worthless. And the company I worked for, our the hardware we were selling, we didn't have anyone to sell it to anymore, really, because the technology we had chosen was great for the startup market, but wasn't what the incumbents wanted to sell. So I forgot what question I was answering. I don't know how I got there, but
Well, you can answer whatever question you want, but
yeah,
what we were
yeah.
talking about, like you're the late bloomer because like until you got to MobileIron, that's
Oh,
when you said this is the career for me.
well,
Before it was
part of it was market conditions and not finding the right product market fit for me as a sales engineer.
okay.
So like, I rode through a crash. I went through companies that weren't trying to sell voice over IP early. And so there weren't that many success stories for a while there. Now there's a couple really well-known success stories, but like Twilio and Cisco did well out of it, but not that many companies did. And it took until I landed on mobile. I hadn't found my sweet spot, and I just happen to have more of a passion for what I'm doing now.
So basically, it's okay to be an SE and not happy with being an SE. It could be because you don't like the role, the company you're in, the industry you're in. So you just have to try different things. Do I understand that right? Is that what you tried?
Well, look, you can't say that all SEs are happy. Yeah, I mean, for me, that was kind of true. You know, finding the right fit has a lot to do with technology. Also has to do with culture at the company that you're working at, the challenges of the job, the way that SEs are valued in the company. A lot of things have to come together, but when they do, it's like a really beautiful thing. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest here, right? There are lots of SEs that, you know, aren't happy in the roles they're in or with the technology they're working on, but they have options.
Yeah. So I talk to a lot of SEs and mostly on the podcast, and they project most SEs, like a lot of SEs are happy, but even those who aren't on the podcast, they project that they are happy. So I kind of have a skewed view of that, mainly because it's a podcast and it's public and they don't want to say anything negative on a podcast about sales engineering, potentially. But like, it's good to talk about that this role is not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
Just a quick little follow-up. I hate to kind of be a dead horse around the topic, but like, did you, even when you were in a company maybe that wasn't the best fit for you, were you already sold on the idea of sales engineering, or was that even something that came only with going to a company that really aligned with you?
And that's a really good question. I don't know what I felt in my 20s. I felt, I mean, I feel like I was really happy with the lifestyle and the freedom it afforded me. Honestly, I also, you know, I thought that, you know, I was going to be rich by the age of 30. There's another thing, right? Like stock options. So I had options in, you know, in a startup that went public and unfortunately it became worthless. But at one point it was going to make me a millionaire. So I thought, hey, maybe I'll have a second career.
yeah.
So yeah, you know, there were some financial disappointments, many due to my the fact that I wasn't very wise at the time. And so yeah, it just took me a while to grow into it. I can't say like I was in love with it in my 20s. I thought, you know, this is going to be a great way to get wealthy in tech.
Which is
this is real talk today.
Yeah, well, we don't mess around.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this, but it's kind of fun.